Good morning, everyone. My name is Eliana, and today with Elisa, I will moderate this conference. This is the first conference of the Hikma Summit of International Relations 2023, and we are all excited to be here with you today and with our guests, of course. As you already know, the title of the conference is Apolitical Young Generations. So basically, we want to explore the gap between the youth and politics in general, so both national and from a European point of view. I just want to give you one record to keep in mind during the whole conference. In 2022, the average age inside the Italian parliament was around 51, and the situation was quite the same inside the European Parliament. So we think that this might be one of the main reasons of this lack of trust of young people to democracy and its institutions. So today we want to explore the origins of this phenomenon and maybe try to imagine and to design a better future for our society. In order to do so, we have decided to invite four special guests that share a common characteristic, that is, they are all actively involved into politics. So now I leave the floor to Elisa, that will show you the structure of our conference.
Hello everyone, I'm Elisa. So now I will make a brief introduction on how the conference will take place. So we will start with a short presentation from our guests, then followed by targeted questions for each of them. Afterwards, we will leave the room for a moment of discussion and debate. And finally, there will be a moment of Q&A to ask questions directly to our guests. So we are sure that you will like the conference. So now let's start with the presentations from Domenica Prete.
Thank you. Firstly, I have to sorry because this is my first time and I had to take notes because I don't want to miss out anything. So I'm Domenica Prete from Rimini and I'm 24 years old. I have a bachelor's degree in international and diplomatic sciences at the University of Bologna here in Italy. I have a master in export and international business at the 24 Ore Business School. And currently, I'm a working student of the Master of Arts in International and Diplomatic Sciences here in Italy. Well, during my bachelor's degree, I spent a year, in particular the year of pandemic, doing the National Civil Service, where I supported the civil protection and social assistance of my town. And that I think that is the beginning of my political activism. Since I was young, I always understood and felt that there were two unfair situations that I don't want to accept. And firstly, starting from my family, probably, and starting from some ancient dynamics of my family. So at the beginning, I spent too much time trying to change other ideas, but then I decided to find a space or associations where put in practice my ideas and my values. Today in this society, I have some characteristics that make me feel like surrounded by obstacles because I'm a woman, a young person, and economically underprivileged, and so on. So during my course of study, I started searching for some environment for with something tangible. And then a few years ago, I found the local movement of Non Una di Meno. That is a movement that fight for LGBTQs and women's rights. And a year later, I found and I entered the IARI, the Istituto di Analisi di Relazioni Internazionali, where I worked on geopolitical analysis and where I co-hosted the podcast Geopolitics Goes Informal. Since the beginning of this year, I am associated to 2030, that is an independent and non-political association composed by students, PhDs, and young workers that focus on monitoring the decision-making activities and collects young requests trying to bring them to the policymakers. 2030 is motivated by the fact that today about 33% of youth have no trust in politics, and the 90% of electors voted only for sense of civic duty. That is absurd. 2030 is mainly focused on raising youth representation in the decision making, and we are engaged in increasing youth awareness about how little politicians keep in mind young people when they take decisions. Last July, we had been to the Chamber of Deputies of the Italian Parliament to present our report on the current situation of young people in our society during the first 6 months of the new government. We spoke about the state of youth linked to different sectors as civil rights, job, retirement policy, education, and environment. It was the beginning of our action as a bridge between politics and young generations. Vetireta helped me to make something more effective and political active for change this situation. I started speaking about politics on social media on my personal page. And now I'm engaged in producing some contents for 2030 to sensitize young people about the importance of politics. Moreover, I participate at these kind of events to discuss these themes. So, in conclusion, I'm not familiar with politics. I've done all because I'm not at ease in this society and with these kind of young policies. So I want a future and I want it here. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm not as good and not as well prepared as Domenica, so I have not prepared anything. So please, at 5 minutes, just stop me. Throw something at me, I don't know. My name is Silvia, I'm 25, and I actually did my bachelor here in Forlì. I ended it in 2020, so I started in 2017. Oh gosh, so much time ago. And I was actually in the very first founding team of Hikma in 2020 that tried to organize the first summit, and then the pandemic hit, as it did with everyone's lives basically that year. And we organized it online in 2020 in September, October, and it was simply great. So here, Forlì actually represents for me a bit the start of everything, my political activism, my study field, as I studied political science here, and also the activities that I did outside of the university, which for me counted way more than any kind of study that I did. So I did my bachelor in Forlì, and then I did a double degree between Sciences Po in Paris and the Free University in Berlin in European Affairs. And when I was in Forlì, I did an Erasmus in Germany, in the nearby of Frankfurt. And my political activism actually started my very first year here in Forlì. There were the national elections. It was 2018. And I remember that the month before the elections, here at university, nobody spoke about the elections. Nobody, literally. I had so many comrades that told me, yeah, you know, I study political sciences, but I don't really care about politics. I'm not sure I'm gonna go to vote. Also, professors didn't really like spread the word that there were elections and some information and stuff. And then we had the elections, and we had Luigi Di Maio as Minister of Foreign Affairs and Matteo Salvini as Minister of Home Affairs. I don't know about your political preferences, but for me, that election was a disaster, literally. Also being a student of international relations and seeing a person like Luigi Di Maio that went into power just because he and his party were talking to the bellies of people to the very strong and populist feelings of saying everything is wrong, let's simply smash them, let's simply open the parliament as a tuna fish can, which is not making good politics, is not really listening to the needs of people, it's simply like going with the flow and telling people that things that they want to hear. So then I went into Erasmus in Germany, and I could vote for German parties at the European elections. And I said, oh, finally, I don't have to vote for Movimento 5 Stelle or Partito Democratico in Italy. I opened the ballot, and the first party that I see is called Volt, because the ballot was open, like the last names in the alphabetical orders were the first that you could see. Volt is with the V, so of course you could see that one first. And I started saying, oh wow, this one, I don't know, I haven't heard about it in Italy. Let's check it out. And I see it's a party made of young people, completely new to politics. They are for a federal European Union, and they try to engage with people that want to do something. Simply those that have some energy and want to bring their voice there, they bring them in. But with a scientific approach, let's use data. It's not just about saying, oh, the word sucks. Let's simply smash everyone, as the Cinque Stelle did. So I approached them, I saw a bit on the website and stuff, I vote for them, and surprise, surprise, they managed to get one person into the European Parliament. I was like shocked. What is this? Then it really works that also someone new and young and with some rational ideas can get into the European Parliament and into the institutions. Then I came back here to Italy, and I started doing activism with Volt here at the local level. From there on, I engaged at the local level, at the national level for Volt until this year. Basically, I was in the board of directors at the national level, and now I'm an activist in the town I came back to, which is Modena, where I grew up and where I'm currently studying. In my normal life, I work in the philanthropic sector, and I try to bring young people into the board of directors of private foundations. That's where money is, and maybe if young people, and then I conclude, go into the place where decisions are taken, then maybe a change can indeed occur.
So now to Adriano.
Hello, everyone. First of all, thank you for inviting me, for creating this amazing panel. Listening to what Domenica and Silvia said, I think my journey is a bit different. They are more involved on a first-person basis in politics. What we do with our association is basically the European Youth Parliament Italy. It's basically to enhance political awareness and active citizenship at let's say, younger level in high school. Usually high school students are under 18, so they cannot vote in first basis, but we strongly believe that's the moment when you can actually learn to be engaged in politics. Too often you get involved in politics, you know how to understand because you are taught, you are used to at least talk about it with your family. That's one of the main means how you get introduced to politics. We believe that also school should be a place where not partisan activism, or at least not by the school, but political engagement should be at least promoted. That's how I was introduced to politics. I remember it was, I believe, 2016. There were two major issues: Brexit before, and then the U.S. elections where Donald Trump won. I was already interested in European values and on the American elections because of my family. How was I taught by my family? And I spoke at dinner with my father, for example. But I saw that's not something that is, at least, nobody has the same luck. And so what we do, what I had luck, that's, I have to admit it, to participate with my school in a project that brought me to talk about current issues in 2018, that was. With the school, I had to elaborate our resolution, which is a document of the European Parliament, about, it was at the time, robotics and the implementation of robotics in modern life. We see now how artificial intelligence is more and more creating having an impact. I could just type in my information on ChatGPT, it could just create a speech. I could have done it since I haven't, and now just going randomly, so you're speaking about that. And I decided that was something that I felt that was useful to me, and that could be useful to others. And therefore, it was why I decided to join this network of association. We are the Italian National Committee of the European Parliament, which means we create and we organize events for Italian high school students. But we are part of a more a broader network, which is composed by similar, almost identical association in 40 countries around Europe, not only European Union. And that's, I believe, the greatest strength, to be able to connect with other people. And that's how you have the possibility to debate, to see things from this different perspective. Politics is not only having an opinion, but be able to speak with people that have different opinions, to get out of the bubble that we too often live in, that we engage with people that have the same ideas, and we just confirm those ideas and think, oh, well, everybody thinks the same. It's not like this, and I would say, luckily, we may not agree with what other people say, but the possibility that we have to talk about this issue is, I believe, why we are all here, to engage and to have some debate at a younger level, not let the, let's say, the establishment, which was a bit of a overused word by some of the political movements that Silvia mentioned, but to those that are already in power and too often don't care about how the power will be left to the next generations. And I'd say that's it for me.
Okay, now let's finish with Alessandra's presentation.
Hello, everyone. First of all, thanks to Hikma for organizing this very cool event and for inviting us. So my name is Alessandra. I'm a student here at the campus of Berkeley. I'm currently about to graduate in specialized translation, and I also did my bachelor here in intercultural and linguistic mediation. And today I'm here as an activist. I am part of Fridays for Future. It's been a year now, and I'm in the group here in Berlin. And I'm currently also active in the writing group of the Italian branch of this movement. So I'm writing some articles for different publications such as La Stampa, Fanpage, and Il Fatto Quotidiano, mainly. And so in my life was completely changed by activism, because I started to do some changes in my private life first. Given the current situation we're living in with the climate crisis, I decided to go first vegetarian almost 3 years now ago. Yeah, 2 years ago. And then I also started to write more and more. I have always loved writing, and I see it as a way to, express myself in a very good way. But then, as time passed, I realized that writing wasn't enough for me. I wanted to do something more, practical, so to say, and I wanted to be more involved with society. And so I became a volunteer for the Festival of Sustainable Development here in Berlin last year, which was organized by Spazio 2030, which is very cool association based here in Berlin. And as I was, helping as a volunteer there, I I got the chance to know all the very different associations and groups that are active here in Forlì. And I mean, Forlì is quite a small town, but it's full of active people. It's incredible. And I saw, some people from Fridays for Future, and I knew about the movement in general, but I didn't know anything about what they were doing here. So I talked to them, and then I went to their first event, and yeah, my life changed because I knew that that was it for me. I mean, that was the right thing to do, and I aligned myself with their values and so on. So from there, I started to speak more in public, and it was very hard for me because I'm an introvert. So, and I really did some amazing things. I got to know a lot of incredible people, and it's really the word of activism is really something else. I mean, I will hopefully tell you more about it later. But yeah, I'm very happy to be here, and I'm hope that I will be able to explain to you what it feels like to be a young activist today.
Okay, now let's start with the individual questions, and let's start with Domenica. At the beginning, what were your expectations about your political journey within 2030?
Well, I entered the 2030 because I was searching for a way or environment in which to do something more at the politics level, as I said before. Fortunately, I found this group on social media. They started with a social campaign during the election of 2022 in Italy. And we started a structured work to increase young representativeness and clarify the weaknesses of politics in Italy today and propose solutions. My participation in this association shapes my activism and gives me the chance to work in team, sharing ideas and difficulties. Moreover, it allows me to have a more loud voice when I talk about my problem as a young woman, and not only. And in conclusion, I can say that I was really excited to begin a tangible work as a political activist. But today I'm even more engaged than before. I continue to meet a lot of people as today, and a lot of people active in politics, and we share beliefs, ideas, solutions, and difficulties. And I have to say that even if sometimes it seems hard to believe that something could change, I'm surely, and we are surely doing actions to make it happen. Thank you.
Okay, so given your experience within 2030, in your opinion, what is the main reason of the lack of trust of young people in political institutions? So, I mean, is it all about policymakers, or maybe the younger share a part of the responsibility?
Well, it's a tough question, but I think that we share responsibilities because, firstly, politics and politicians today do not listen to our needs and do not think about our future when they take decisions. And in the meantime, I think that unless we speak with one clear voice, we cannot reach a lot. Probably another theme is the lack of civic education in schools and a lack of awareness about the importance of politics for our lives and future. Therefore, I think that all of us must be more engaged and interested. Otherwise, there will be always someone else surely older, and probably with less consciousness about our problems that will take decisions for us. Finally, I strongly believe that if politics became more inclusive, more people will go to vote. Thank you.
Thank you. So now, Silvia, in your opinion, do you think that university education was enough, or maybe like experiences like Hikma or political activism is needed to work in politics today?
Thanks. Absolutely, it's not enough. And I tell you this by the concrete example. When I applied for Sciences Po, I had, first of all, everyone in my class wanted to go to Sciences Po. If you're also thinking about it, if I can give you my personal advice, great opportunity to do network, great email address to have. You can write to anybody and even Macron will answer to you. But for the rest, there's better education in the world than in Sciences Po. But apart from this, when I got to Sciences Po, a lot of comrades of mine in my class applied. We had exactly the same grades, precisely. They didn't get in, I got in. When I got to Sciences Po, then I got to know the person that was part of the office that was doing the recruitment. She was Italian, so we got in touch a bit. And she told me, you know, we noticed your profile because you had a huge amount of experiences outside of university, outside of the grades. And that's something that not just Sciences Po, which is just a small, not representative sample of reality, but the rest of the world really notices. Because in the end, in particular in political sciences, which is not a traditional career like being a lawyer or being a doctor is, you really need to do something and not just study because, and here we go to the end of the answer. If you want to engage in politics and be potentially a good politician or a good decision maker, it's not just knowing when the Yom Kippur War started or what happened precisely in that specific year. It's also this, but it's also getting active, getting to know your community. It can be your local community. This, to me, for example, Volt was a great exercise to get in contact with local communities. When I started here, as I was telling you in Forlì, there were the regional elections in 2019, 2020. And what we did was doing listening tours. So we stood outside of the campus, just there, people passing by with a Google form, and we asked them, what do you think about your city? What is cool in Forlì? What doesn't work? And then from there, you start listening what your community thinks, what are the needs, what's the general mood in the city. And that's also part of doing politics. It's not just this, but it's also this part of the activity.
Thank you. So, in your opinion, are young people's opinion really taken into account when designing EU policies? Are there spaces where young people can also be listened to? Are we listened really in the European Union?
Can I change a bit the question? In the sense that I also heard Domenica was mentioning the fact of we're not listened to. But Jesus Christ, we should be talking. We should not be listened to, you know? And that's the problem here, I would say, in the sense that the system of decision makers and the system that has power is now made of 50-year-old white men, not part of the LGBT community. That's basically the typical frame. So you see that there are already some groups which are completely disadvantaged. The young people are one of them. And it's not just about being heard, it's really about having the space in the system. And I would say that this could then trigger a lot more of inclusion. As Domenica was saying, if the system was more inclusive, this doesn't mean just young people. I was told a lot of times, why young people? Why 40-year-old that had no chance of, because of the 2008 crisis, because of all of the issues, that had no chance to have some power or some self development. Why shouldn't we have a voice? But that's not the point. The point is young people as a trigger point, so to say, to get into the system for those that have no voice at the moment, that have no space, that are not represented, but then the system could become way more inclusive. So no, because there is no space for young people. Just as an example, and then I'm closing, until you're 25, you cannot candidate for national elections and for the European elections. This means that next year, I don't know if your birthday is before June, but otherwise, how old are you, Alessandra? 25, okay, so we too can candidate. If your birthday, no, so you too cannot. Why? What's this? When you become 25, yeah, magically you can run, but you can't vote before. What the fuck? What's this, no? So if there's no space, then it's not even worth to say we should be listened to, we should talk.
Thank you. Okay, I have two questions for Adriano. First of all, why did you start your political journey? So, for example, is there a special event of your life that affected your choice?
Thanks. As I was mentioning, I was lucky enough to be able to talk about politics in my house, and that was already something that made me think, why am I not doing the same at school, where is the place of where we should become a better citizen, because that's the moment when you turn 18 and you can get involved into politics, at least for half the process, as Silvia was mentioning. As I also said before, the something international was the first moment when I got interested. I tried to also write something from school and I tried to inform myself. And then the 2018 elections were the great moment. I wasn't lucky enough to be already 18 for the vote, so I just watched the whole process. But at the moment, I was already seeing something I personally didn't like, which made me think, how can I get involved? How can I change something? One way is surely the getting involved in first person. Another way is to give chance to other people to get involved, and that's what we try to do, at least, to give the opportunity to not only talk about, but also meet, to try to get listened, at least speak to our member of parliaments, our member European parliaments. When we try to contact them, they're always very kind, very available. They come to the events, they give a keynote, but then there are almost never possibility of an exchange of ideas. It's just them talking to us, telling us how the world is, how they think the world is, and what's better for us. And while we try to say, actually, no, we have different ideas, we have different opinions, we have different positions, too often there's no possibility to do that. Comes to my mind, the conference on the future of Europe was a great possibility, at least how it was presented. And in the end, do we know what happened next? What the effects? There is actually, I was looking for some internship also in the European institutions, and in some of the various opportunities. I believe it was also for the Schumann traineeships. There was a position for, let's say, a follow-up after the conference on the future of Europe. And I thought to myself, what follow-up? Did we talk about it? What happened with it? Why did we talk so much about why we were so hyped? Because it was seemingly it was an opportunity for us to speak. I don't think that actually worked because no one was interested in actually listening. Yeah, you speak, I'm not in the room to listen to you. Too often there are no actual decision makers that have the possibility or don't decide to get to listen. And even if they want to, this system is built so it's so much difficult to get actual change from outside. We were discussing before how it's difficult to get involved with new realities. Silvia was explaining to me how they are trying and going into courts to get involved, to be admitted to elections. And that's only one side of many people trying to get involved and not being able to.
Okay, thank you. And I want to ask you also, I mean, you said that the European Youth Parliament is involved in, how can you say, like spreading a political conscience among young people, right? So my question is, by what means? So can you give us some examples of your practical activity?
Uh, First of all, it's awareness of how the system works. We are more concentrated on the European side, so in our events we try to spread consciousness about how the EU system works, the institutions, mainly the Parliament, as it is the citizens' representative body. Too often, why we say we cannot avoid mentioning the flaws that are in the system and how too often there are the, let's say, the negative side, the costs more than the benefits are perceived in about the institutions. What we do is mainly giving a space to a safe space to debate, where every opinion is considered valid and is listened to, which is something we wish it was in reality. We give a possibility to students from high schools all over Italy to get together with many different topics. For example, we had one of our events last week in Umbria, in Orvieto, and the delegates got together talking about human rights, about the external action of the European Union on our right to healthcare, and how can the EU implement these actions practically. And that's how we mentioned, I mean, some years ago, when I started, we told to, for example, sponsor or schools, we are apolitical, apolitical organizations. But then, I mean, I myself say, no, we are not apolitical. We are a political organization because what we do is politics. We are not political. We have not a specific, let's say, line of party. Of course, we have European values. There are some common values. But what we do, we try to encourage people to get involved, to get informed, to discuss with each other, which is the core of politics. Having different ideas, getting them together, and perhaps agreeing to disagree. We don't want to always agree. It would be also boring. And having the possibility to see different things from different perspectives, also on an international point of view, we have the luck to have participants from all over Europe and discussing the same topic, how is it perceived in Finland, in Turkey, or in Germany. It gives incredibly different ideas, also surprisingly, how can things be perceived so differently around Europe. And that is something that we hope, at least teaching young generations to get involved, to be welcome to other ideas. Perhaps even not today, it will be too late, perhaps tomorrow, we don't know. We hope that even though it's not today, the next generation will be more open to young and to different ideas.
Okay, so now it's time for Alessandra. So, how does it feel to be a young activist today? Have you ever felt like your experience is undervalued?
Thank you. So I would say it's a mixture of feelings. Sometimes I feel ignored and undervalued, as you said, mainly by politicians and also those people who still deny climate change. And I personally received some critics as I was participating in a protest, so sometimes it's very hard. And I think that nowadays it's harder because we're seeing a lot of repression and censorship also against activism. But sometimes I also feel listened, and it's such a joy when people around you see you and get why you are doing what you're doing. And maybe some of them also change their habits because they, after seeing what you're doing as an activism, they started to think more about what they are doing in their private lives. I mean, even the smallest decisions, like, I don't know, deciding what to eat, for example, or choosing which type of transportation to take, and so on. So I think it all starts from there, and I also, I feel very lucky to be around some people in activism that inspire me constantly. So yeah, I would say it's a mix of different emotions and feelings. And I also noticed that, however, there is a contradiction when it comes to young activists' reputation. I often hear people say things like, "Oh, young people, they should do something. They should act. They should follow their values and what they believe in." But then, when we as activists also, when we actually do something, when we act, it's never. I mean, it feels like it's never right. It's never enough. I mean, it doesn't matter which strategy we choose. Some people will always criticize us, I think. So sometimes they will say things like, "Oh, they're just young. They're too young to know anything really about how the world works, and they are just lazy and immature. They should just go to school or to work." And so, yeah, I mean, not all of the people, of course, say these things, but some of them are. So sometimes it's harder. But so, yeah, to sum up, I would say that it's a hard path being a young activist today, but I'm sure that it will lead to more and more changes, because I'm seeing a lot of change around me, around us. More and more people are starting to be more active and more conscious. So I'm sure that, I mean, we might not see it, but in the future, I'm sure that our actions, what we are doing today, will have, a big influence on what will happen next.
So the impacts of climate change are becoming increasingly visible, such as we have seen here in May with the floods. So do you believe that politicians are finally taking genuine actions for climate change, or it's still just a matter of propaganda?
Thank you. I hope it will bring to more consciousness among the political world, but what happened here in Forlì and in other parts of Romagna last May was terrible. It was really a nightmare, and I'm sure that some people have started to, see the links between what happened then and climate change, but unfortunately, not all. I mean, there are still people who are denying climate change. So it's hard. And I think there is really a gap between the world of politics and the world of activism. Because in my opinion, politicians often feel very distant from us. It feels to me like politics is something that is done far away from us, but actually, it's made from people, and we are people, and so we should just fill this gap. And I mean, I'm not saying it's easy, but one of the main things we can do, I think, besides activism, is simply talking. I mean, speaking to everyone. It doesn't matter if it's our family, if it's our friends, if it's our colleagues, whatever. But I also know that these conversations are pretty hard to have. But it's the only way to, build more consciousness and build more, more power. Also, I think, I mean, we should remind people and also ourselves that we have a lot of power, starting from the very small things we do in our everyday lives. And in the world of activism, there's a concept which actually Adriano was mentioning earlier. It's the concept of the bubble. We often say things like, yeah, we should go outside that bubble. And yeah, we should really break this bubble, we are in. We should really just try to expand our world. And yeah, I think, as I was saying earlier, that, yeah, if we start to talk more and more about this, it will also lead to changes on a bigger scale. I mean, I know that at the end of the day, the people who are in power, only they can make like the big decisions, but it all starts really from the bottom. So it all starts with us.
Thank you. Now we will have like 30 minutes of debate. So
Yes, now we would like to create a kind of round table. So we will give you 4 questions, and I mean, they should be and act as a starting point for a debate. So feel free to answer. Both Adriano and Alessandra spoke about bridging the bubble and filling the gap. So the first question is, which tools might be exploited to fill this gap and bridge this bubble? So who wants to answer first? Okay, let's go with Domenica.
Thank you. Firstly, I totally agree with my colleagues. We have to smash the bubble and we have to speak louder first. And as I said before, I think that one of the main things is the civic education. That is a main objective. We have, and they have to explain to young generations how important is the politics, because it totally shapes our future. And secondly, in accordance with Sylvia, we need more space. It's true, and in which we can talk about our needs, and that is also a politician's task. Today, for example, social media are a tool, an important tool for our generations, because they represent a space where we can express ourselves and our ideas. But politicians try to enter them when they have to cash votes. For example, during the election, all politicians enter the TikTok. I don't know if you. Yes. And they try to convince us to stand with them, but they treated us as dumps. I think that maybe we annoy and we bother a little politicians and politics. And because we are a little group of voters, but we have to act in a more effective way. We have to speak louder because they left us only crumbs. And in conclusion, I think that listening to young generation is really important, because today we lack someone that put us on its level when we speak about politics. because they think that we are not conscious about this society, but obviously it's not true. And to do that, we have to be more represented in the decision making, because there is always over 35% that speaks about what is better for us, and that is illogical, totally.
Okay, Silvia.
As I was telling before, young people are not like a panda. We're not like a precious species of animal that needs to be preserved somehow, put in a glass and looked through, saying, oh, poor them. We're simply a representation of a system that doesn't leave space for those that are not already in the system. We were saying that before. So, one tool to break the bubble would indeed be to give tools to people to break the bubble. For instance, I'm very lucky. I studied abroad, then I came back home because I was sick and tired of people telling me, oh, good for you, you're staying in Berlin, you find a great, well-paid job, don't come back to Italy, there's no space for you. What are you doing? You studied international relations and whatever, stay outside. Then I came back, but I mean, lucky me, I have parents that can still host me at home because I don't earn enough to have an apartment in Bologna, which is a super expensive city in terms of apartments. And if you don't have money to have an apartment, how the fuck are you supposed to do political activism in your free time? How are you supposed to run for candidate, to inform yourself about the parties? You're just gonna vote for those that shout the loudest, and that's it. And honestly, I don't give you any fault. So I would say that one super important step to make if we want to include more and more people, in particular young people that are totally disadvantaged by the whole environmental crisis, by the whole systems, social and economic multiple crisis and difficult structure that we live in today, is to give social rights. For instance, right to a house, higher salaries, no more unpaid internships, no more terrific, terrible working conditions, and that's the only way I would say to break the bubble, most probably.
I would start from what just Silvia said. I was, as I mentioned earlier, I am actually looking for an internship, and one of the options that my university, Sapienza Rome, in Rome, so also should be at least presented as a very high-profile university, blah blah blah. One of the options that the university platform offered was the Prefettura di Roma, so also a public entity and should be prestigious-ish, was a totally unpaid internship for in the area to change of name, toponomastics, and honorific title of città. And in the notes were explicitly said there will be no other benefits or any facilitation for interns. And I was like, I am a Muslim. It's an offer to political science, international relations, and you offer me explicitly saying no benefit, no money, no nothing, no lunch bonus. And I should spend my time other than studying, doing this, because it's a mandatory internship for my degree. How am I supposed to grow as a citizen? How also enter the, not only the political environment, the work environment, how to get involved if I had to spend 300 hours in a couple of months doing something which is something I don't like, but that's personal, but that doesn't give me the instruments to get involved. I am staying in Rome, and I am lucky enough that I have a family that can sustain myself. But I'm working. I'm just basically doing volunteering. If I do volunteering, I do it for my own, for what I like, and that's what I'm doing. That's why I'm here, because I decided to get engaged and to enter a board of directors to organize something, not because I want to. why should I be a free slave for a public entity? While just because, oh yeah, we need a person, just ask universities to give me some. That's not how, that's how they think they can use young people. We shouldn't be used, we should be listened, we should be given the chance to speak up. And for the bubble that's also, Alessandra was mentioning, it's too often we, also the news are always, almost always, it's difficult to find non-political, let's say, focused on a political opinion news. Too much often it's just filtered with us to give you some kind of information. And that's also something we should do. We should find different sources. Also try to read things from the different perspectives, to look at different newspapers. But then you say, how am I going to pay for like 2-3 subscriptions? Why doesn't university, for example, give me the access to get informed? That's because there is no interest in young people, in no investment money. Young people are the minor group of voters. There is no interest in giving money. For example, I can get more votes with a pension reform. Of course, there are many people interested in pensions. Why should I care about the 2030 management that area? It's not worth it. And we of course are trying to say it's worth it. We shall find, and we should hope that someone will listen. Otherwise, we need to get heard on ourselves.
Well, I totally agree with you all. And as you were speaking, it came something to my mind. I mean, concerning the possibility of voting if you study in another region, and that's one of the biggest issues we have. I think, if I'm not mistaken, there are like only 3 countries in the European Union where you can't do this, and Italy is one of them, and it's outrageous. I think sometimes they, this issue comes up, and it feels like they're trying to, find some solution, but we're in 2023, and we still can't vote if we study in another region. We have to come back to our home, and the flight tickets and train tickets are so much expensive, so it's really an issue for many of us. And in this way we can't really express ourselves, so it's really fucked up, I would say.
Okay, so the next question is, in your opinion, which is the main fault of politicians in filling the gap between younger and more old people? I mean, what can they do better?
Okay. Okay. Well, I think that currently the public debate is very polarized. Politicians only try to catch more votes and make something for their electorate without thinking about the future and without considering what is better for future generations, because they have some particular and specific interests in doing that. One of the worst things in national and in general European politics maybe is the lack of young people in parliaments. Politicians do not listen to our needs, we can speak louder, and they are taking decisions about our future without our point of view. So in the last Italian election, only 4 people under 30 were elected. So who is going to say how is to be a 20-year-old person in this state to the parliament. Many of them are already conscious that we disagree, but it seems like they don't mind, maybe because we are a small group of voters, as we said before, and maybe it's also our responsibility, but we have to enter the political debate, and we are already doing that. There are always more demonstration associations led by youth about climate change or other problems, for example, housing, and we have to announce our non-violent disappointment.
I'm super happy that this panel was composed by people coming from outside of parties, because it's also important, I would say, to remember that, and I think this was the fault I was telling you about at the beginning of my presentation, when here in Forlì nobody wanted to talk about politics, but politics is not just about voting one or the other candidate at the elections, it's mostly about what you do every day. If you are outraged because the tampon tax in the end still exists and stuff like that. Connected to party politics, though, I think one of the main faults is that there still exist youth party organizations. And this, to me, makes absolutely no sense. As I was telling you before, we are not pandas. There's the party of the adults, of the ones that do real politics, and then there's you in your playground playing how cute you are. That's not the point. If you can vote starting from 18, and you should also be voted starting from 18 and not of 25, but this happens, for instance, at the local level, you can be elected if you're 18, so it's fine. Then you should also be part of the adults parties. So regarding party politics, I would say this is the main thing that could change.
Starting from what also Domenica said, the non-violent protests, the people who actually get involved in such protests or strikes or other forms of manifesting some kind of opposition are often like just mocked about just because, yeah, you're young, just making some, you're shouting in front of a building, or just blocking my car going to work. It's not, people should at least see that we are feeling something. We are not good with how things are going, and that what we do, it's not we want to lose a day of school, we just don't want to miss class. We think that it's more important to get our voices up. And the more people just mock, the more just we are not listened to or just not considered valuable enough, the more we get angry. And I don't know, of course, what we say, it just, I think the whole aim of the panel was to underline how we are not listened and to the faults of this system. I think it's difficult for me to come up with one thing, but maybe the idea that we are not worthy, that just because we haven't any experience, as when you go for an internship and they ask you 5 years of experience in other internship where they ask me experience, how am I supposed to get there? At the same time, how am I supposed to start politics if you just don't listen to me? How am I supposed to have an idea if you don't let me express it because, oh, you've never done this, you don't know how it works? It doesn't matter. I want to work. I want to make it work, perhaps in a different way. I shouldn't just conform myself to how things are. And that's maybe the most frustrating thing, not be able to, I don't want to be a disastrous way of modifying things. I know it's just, it should be at least the beginning, but let me start from somewhere.
Yes, I think we have really no chance, to start somewhere, really. And when you mentioned anger earlier, we are the ones who feel angry and who, are also, are feeling also, fearful about the future, because we are not only the future, we are the present too. So it's true that we are the ones who will suffer most the consequences of the actions we do today, but it's still happening. It's already happening, everything today. And so, yeah, it often feels to me like a very disappointment from the world of politics, not being able to make us feel, heard and seen.
Okay, so what is your personal advice for those young people who, for example, are really interested into politics, so who wants to improve our society, but they are scared of not be listened to, or maybe they think that they will not leave a sign in our society? Yeah.
Thank you. It's a very tough question because, as we said before, we have not so much space in this state. But I think that today there is not a right way to enter the politics. Actually, for youth, it's very difficult because we do not have space and support and tools, as said by Sylvia. But maybe we only have to start from somewhere as us, and speaking with other people, findings, association, or space where we can talk and where we can put together to create our future. We probably have to put us together and understand our needs and start to speak louder against this current elite in a democratic, non-violent and smart way, because among other things, we are the most educated generation and we have to make it count. Our state needs expertise and requires people who want to change together, even if they're letting us go away. And so my advice is being yourself and bring your passion and great anger to the public debate.
Okay, so I think that since we live in the system we live today, this message is mainly targeted and sent to those people that can now and today activate into politics. So I would have two main recommendations. The first one is do not conform to the system. I remember I was invited to a speech in my town in Modena. It was a speech about young people in politics. And there was this guy, I saw him going to the stage and talking. He was around, I thought he was in his 40s at least. And I was like, why is he there? And he is a councillor of the city of Modena from the Democratic Party. He's in his 30s, but I swear to you, he was talking like a 50-year-old guy. He was exactly in the mindset of an old person into the system already. And he was telling, like, you see, there are chances for young people, but it's not being young just because you were born in a specific year. It's also being young in the sense of not willing to let the status quo remain, basically. And it doesn't mean like overthrowing the system with fire and stones, but it's more about bringing a different idea of the system itself. We have a climate crisis. If we want to solve it, we have to shift the status quo, but otherwise we're gonna remain as it is now. And this also links to the second recommendation, which is include people that do not have our privilege into the system. Because again, we are here, we're all studying because we were lucky enough to be born in the right family, in the right quarter, in the right city, in the right year, in the right side, on the right side of the Mediterranean, by the way. So it's also about, if we don't want to be just young adults of the past generation, just being born in another year, let's simply do not forget that we have maybe a responsibility more to involve other people into politics, because politics should be of everyone, not just of those either too angry that vote Fratelli d'Italia or that do not vote at all because they really feel they have no tool, no chance to be heard. That's not the system we should be living in.
I'll start from where Silvia left it. So the fact that too often we just go for the least worst, which is something that is the exact opposite of what politics should be. We should have someone recognize ourselves in. Even not though completely, but someone we're with the idea are something we can share, not just because yeah, it's not good, but the other are worse. That's the worst thing that can happen in politics. In my opinion, the political activism has profoundly changed in the decades. Maybe it's, I mean, we are rediscovering the, let's say, classical meaning, get involved with parties. But there are so many other ways. There are movements, there are social media, there are any kind of activity that can make our voice heard. That should be something we should focus on. We should enhance. I believe that if I had to say one thing, was to listen to other people. And if you start to listen, you can understand that things are different, that you can work with other people. It's not just the panel of, unfortunately, last year we were invited as an association to the Salon del Libro in Turin in a keynote speech about how can the EU enhance its democratic approach toward young people. There were a fair member of our board, and they were like they were 20, I think, and the other 4 people were 4 males of over 40. We are talking about young activism in Europe, and you bring me 4 members of the City Council of Turin, which is it's totally not saying they're not competent. I'm saying we're talking about young people. Where are young? Where is the youth should be involved? So what I would say is get informed, find a way, even something that doesn't seem classical one. Nowadays it doesn't matter. It is important to get heard, no matter how.
I would like to go back to something Sylvia said earlier about, making your way into the political world, I would say. I think one of the main things we can do is starting from your local area, your neighborhood, even, talking to the people who live there, trying to understand what their issues are, what their difficulties are, and also trying to getting to know the groups and associations of the place you are living in. I come from a very small place, so I know that sometimes it's hard to find this kind of spaces. But if there isn't one, maybe why not? I mean, building one yourself. Yeah, I think it's one of the most useful ways to start.
Can I add something? Of course.
Thank you. I only want to say that I totally agree with my colleagues and with Silvia that said that we need tools, and not all people can have these tools at the beginning. But I want to make a personal clarification because I'm totally an underprivileged person. In 2020, I lost my father for a leukemia, and there, in that time, start a very emotional and economical hard period that lasts today. I went to Milan to make something more practical after the bachelor's degree, but I found as an internship stage that give me 300 euros per month in Milan. So all of this to say that I'm the only one that continue with studies after the high school in my family, because I'm the third of three sons. So it's difficult, I know, but you have to find a space where you can talk and you can count, and there are a lot of space. Small and haunted, but there are a lot of space.
Thank you for this thought, quite important, I think. Thank you.
Okay, so last question. So politics is related to everyday life, so from education to healthcare. So we know that as a member of society, we can feel the necessity of politics, but to what extent does politics need the younger generations?
Okay, and one of the main statements of 2030 is that there is no future for a state that do not take into account young generations. So it's a matter of fact that as long as politics do not listen to our voice and do not create space for us, we will always have more difficulties. So politicians always try to fill the gaps in policies, only to demonstrate that they are working on problems, but they don't make structural changes to this system that put us down and put down a lot of categories. So maybe it's time for them to collaborate with us, and because we are going to leave this planet after them, so they have to take their responsibilities and stop acting as selfish, only thinking about revenues and individual interests.
As I was saying in my initial presentation, I work in the field of philanthropy. We're trying with a program to include young people in the board of directors of private foundations. And we did some interviews to start with the program to our associated members, so private foundations in Italy. And they told us, yeah, of course we include young people in our processes. We ask them about technology, the environment, and that's it. And it was at that point when we, with my team, with my office, we understood that maybe we have to shift a bit this idea that young people only count when they talk about topics that touch them personally, which is usually how to turn on a computer and environment. But that's not just about it. It's really the fact that we were born in a world which is going at super fast speed, and the world is still changing super quickly today. So as a young generation, we do have a skill of adapting way more quickly than our parents, our grandparents. This is one reason why young generations should be included in a everyday changing world, basically. The second idea is that young people, at least from my experience, again, in the national system of philanthropy, but also in activism in Europe, everywhere where I lived and had the chance to activate myself, we are quite good at networking with other realities. We know we can't do it alone. Here we have a representation of associations and movements that work together, but in general, we do have an approach at horizontal networking, basically, and creation of relationships. So this is also another second skill that young generations could bring and should bring into politics, which is now very much focused on the individual and maybe should be more focused on working together and creating links.
I would second what just Celia said. One of the main characteristics that we have is the flexibility, the ability to talk to each other and to understand. I believe we understand better each other. We have a more open mind. We are, at least, we hope to be raised more open-minded, to be open to differences, and that's why we should be more involved in decision-making processes, because we see things differently. Of course, we are more near to to our needs. You mentioned, yeah, technology and environment. Not always even technology. We just saw that, that will talk about the artificial intelligence. Who better than an 80 years old former prime minister without no idea about how artificial intelligence may actually work? I'm not saying he's an incompetent person in general. I'm saying that the articles on the news said, oh, yeah, let's talk about how the other countries are tackling this issue. The UK, 38 years old informatic engineer. Not the same background as our choice. Let's hope our choice will have better informants rather than his own knowledge. To say that we know better the reality, we may be more near, more connected to what we are living, and we will leave the world after this generation. And the issues we see may be more near also to those that will follow us. We have also to think after. The people in power now too often just think about how to, let's say, remain in power too. And also it's very bad. I don't like to use power. It's just to get involved, to be involved in the decision-making process without thinking about the long-term decisions of these, the long-term effects of the decisions. That's why we should be involved, because we are the long-term. We are those who will have an effect and hopefully use our experience to get better for those who will come after us.
So I think we young people are needed because we are the ones who have the ideas and the inputs to bring change. I think it's obvious that the models we have based our world, our society on are no longer working because they're damaging not only to our planet but also to some of us. I think of, I don't know, like women, minorities, people with disabilities, foreign people. So we are the ones that know better this situation, I think. So without our inputs, without our voices, I don't think change could be achieved. So that's why we are needed, I think.
Okay, thank you all. So now we will have a moment of questions. So if you have questions, you can write them down in the Meet, or you can do it here.
Can I? So, okay.
If you want to speak on
On the mic.
the microphone, yeah, so also the people can hear you.
Thank you for your presentations. I would have many things to say. I will limit myself to the critics because otherwise it's not a debate. My point of critics are to basically Okay, already from the panel, as you observed, there is no party-linked young person politically involved, and this is significant because it's something that we don't do much. But we live in a parliamentary democracy, and parliament has power to make laws, and to get into parliament, you have to be in a party. So, isn't it a contradiction? Because obviously, politics is everything, is what you buy, what you eat, how you relate to people. But then politics is also laws, and to make laws, you have to get into parliament. And by the way, one of the most active young branches of parties is Fratelli d'Italia as one. So we are most likely to see young people from Fratelli d'Italia in parliament than from other parties, paradoxically. And then another one linked to breaking the bubble, which is something very nice sounding, but then we have to actually engage in a debate with people with different values, because bubbles are created along value lines, not knowledge line. So, for example, we can discuss within a bubble all day long about the use of schwa to make language more inclusive, but then from the other part of the bubble, they will say there isn't any problem of discrimination of the LGBT community. So what are we talking about? So the choice of discussing within the bubble or to go outside the bubble means spending more time and energy to discuss with people with different values than you. So it's a choice. So just to provoke the discussion, instead of breaking the bubble, no, I wouldn't say. But instead of breaking the bubble, wouldn't it be better to institutionalize the bubble in order to actually get to power?
Okay, who wants to start? Okay.
Me, because it's not true, there is no representative of a party. I'm a representative of a party. Volt is elected in institutions. There's, of course, a barrier to being recognized as a political party. And in order to be able, for instance, to run for elections without collecting a huge amount of signatures, you need to be already represented in the parliament. So in this sense, no, we are not in the Italian parliament, but we are at local and regional level all over Europe, and we are also in the European Parliament. So from this point, I just wanted to clarify, yes, there is a representative of a party which is also a movement, because we would like to close a bit the gap between parties and movements which exist. It's quite evident in our country, a bit less, a bit differently in other countries in Europe, but still, that's the idea. And I also wanted to specify on what I said before about youth party organizations. I think that young people should involve themselves first in the parties that then run at the elections, and not just in the youth organizations, because in particular for some parties, it's just about putting posters during the elections, which is something that I also do. I am in a party which doesn't have a youth organization, but it's also about taking a space in the system, as we repeated often in this panel. It's about creating a space in the system, not parallel to the system by saying, oh, the cute, nice organization of free time. No, it's about us getting into the system because we are as valuable as people in their 50s, 60s, whatever. About breaking the bubble. Institutionalizing the bubble is actually creating a political party, or being an activist in a political party, I would say, in the sense that people saying, oh, we should talk about something else than the schwa. It's people criticizing the Democratic Party, for instance, that says you are the radical sheikhs that have no idea what it means not to survive at the end of the month. And the bubble, we could say, is part of the Democratic Party. I'm sorry if I'm being politically critical, but that's it. It's tough to engage with people that have completely different opinion than yours, but I would say that that's the initial part to break a bit the huge polarization that we feel exists in the society. But it's a sense that, at least for what concerns my political activity, I always had this impression. You get into a public square, it's election time. You have your stand with your flyers, you go around, People look at you, see there is a European flag symbol on your flyers, and it's like, oh gosh, and they go away. Then you start not using flyers. For instance, one thing that we did in Bologna, which was very fun, was handing out people questions. It was a blank paper with a question on it, which was, for example, what do you like about your city? And then there were people coming and saying, or what you don't like. And then people come and say, oh, I don't like that there are so many immigrants in the square, and they should all be sent back to Africa. They shouldn't be here. Italy is for white people. Okay, we are pretty far away here in the polarization scheme. Why don't you like that immigrants stay in the square? Well, because it's not safe. I don't feel safe going around in the city, in the square. Okay, we get a bit closer. I can understand the feeling of unsafeness, if this word exists in English. Let's get closer. Why do you feel unsafe? Yeah, because I have to go on foot to the square, because I don't have a car. I don't have enough money for a car. You see that in the end, the needs can be quite widely understood. And that's the main problem, I would say, of populism. They get just the first part of the polarization. You hate immigrants. Well, let's make a campaign against immigrants. But you're not touching the real problem, which can be, in this case, an economic problem, but there are a whole thousand of other problems that maybe underlie this. So, of course, it's vital to talk to people that have a different opinion than yours, also because we can't eliminate all those that don't think like us, otherwise we would be a bit 70 years ago with the guy with the mustache, and that's not what we would like. And I would say it's even more important because bubbles exist as long as we want them to exist. They don't really exist in reality, or they are way wider and way differently shaped than we think. Social media sometimes amplify this feeling of bubbleness because algorithm works according to showing you what you would like to see so that you remain on the platform, blah, blah, blah. And this is why also maybe personal contact and staying in a square and doing a manifestation as a protest as the Fridays for Future do, or going on the squares and talking to people is of utmost importance.
I will focus myself, if you allow me, to the second part, so the bubble. I think that's the most difficult part of getting engaged. Of course, it's easier to talk with people that think the same with you. It's easier, it's less effort, but that's part of, if we protest, if we want to get listened, we should listen also, and we should talk to everybody, to also those who have not the same ideas. And I totally agree with you. It's not easy, and we should. This should be promoted also. With this also, I actually get the first part with the political involvement. Yes, we sometimes say, "Oh no, we don't want to talk about with politicians or like with political line because it's we're gonna influence people." I think that's depends on the occasion. If I want to talk with political people, wow, that's pretty bad. With a political line, I should do it. I shall do it. And then I should make the effort to talk about those who have very different opinions with me. In other cases, teachers are always scared. No, we don't want to talk about politics because we can influence. The idea should be that I cannot be influenced. I can recognize when something is politicized and get to decide if I agree with that or not. And that's something is missing from our education system. You are not taught how to listen, how to get information, how to process it. Of course, you are, for some kind, always biased by something, by your values, by how you were taught by your family, or by what you see on Instagram or social media that shows you what you like. But I think on this, we should, the system should teach us how to recognize the information, how to also not get fear of politics, not get fear of political lines, because that's how you do politics, how you, at least in the current system, how parliament works, you need to be in a group, in a political group.
Okay. I want to say something about non-political, and because 2030 in particular is a non-political and independent association. But at the moment, it's important to be non-political because obviously we have our ideas and values and our political part, but we have to speak about youth problems with youth to sensibilize young to engage in politics at the whole level. And we have to have the possibility to speak with someone from the government, for example, as we did when we went to the Chamber of Deputies. There were two deputies, one from Lega and one from Forza Italia. So we have to speak with all. So we have to speak with someone that do not have our same ideas. And it's important to do that because even also that smash the bubble. We have to create a debate and a constructive debate, even with someone that do not have our ideas, because we are more open-minded, so we can understand and we can change ideas, because change idea is not the worst thing in the world. And actually, as we said, the debate is very polarized. You do not heard a politician from a political party that changes his mind. Never. And this is not a good thing for politics. And in conclusion, the bubble, I think that is made up privilege. So often I think that people that can, for example, can be active in political party from his teenage, okay, when they are teenage. It's someone often privileged that have a long history in the family, or maybe has economical tools. So it's important to get together and speak with all. And I think that is a way to smash the bubble, smash the privilege, to make politics.
Yeah, I wanted to say something about the, the whole breaking the bubble thing. What you were saying earlier is, closely related to what I said before when I was talking about the difficulty of, talking with people who have different ideas. Sometimes it happened to me that some people offended me when I was protesting in the streets, and it's hard. That's what I was saying before. These conversations must be, they have to take place, but they are hard to have. And I think sometimes I notice that people act this way because they have fear, they have maybe anxiety of, for climate change, because sometimes it all feels something too big for them. They think, oh, I couldn't do anything anymore to fight climate change, but they just don't know that even they can do something. So I mean, I know that we have to make these conversations, because often they just have fear, and I mean, I get them completely, because it's scary.
Okay, now we have time maybe for another quick question. If someone wants to, I don't know. Maybe from home. I have one last question for all of you, and is how do you feel about the future? Like, do you feel optimistic or not?
I feel uncertainty, totally, because I'm really engaged. I'm here speaking about politics, speaking about space for young generations, but it's clear that the situation is going to another part. Okay, is driven by personal interest, individualism, and I feel sometimes it's hard to continue because I feel the anxiety of the performance. University work because I have to work, I need to work. Activism, political activism, non una di meno, 20 e 30, is very difficult. But I think that when I found myself here in front of you that are young as me, and I have really not, I have really not nothing more than you. Okay, I only started with an association, and now I can speak to you. 1 year before could I. I could have not thought that I can speak in front of you. So maybe something I reached. So we have to keep continue to speak and create space for ourselves. We have to take risks.
Yes, what you just said really resonated with me because if someone told me like 1 year ago that I would have been here today talking to a conference after a year of activism, I wouldn't have believed them. So yeah, I think it depends on the moment. Sometimes I feel more optimistic, like for events like this. Other times, yeah, I feel a lot of anxiety actually for the future. So as I was saying earlier, it's really a mixture of feelings. But as time passes, I'm noticing that there's more and more movement and changes around me. So yeah, I really hope that it will lead us to a better world.
I was trying to translate a quote that like to use when this question is asked to me, which is from Antonio Gramsci. In Italian it sounds like sono un pessimista dell'intelligenza ma un ottimista nella volontà. So I'm pessimistic in my brain, in my intelligence, but I'm very optimistic in my heart, in my willingness. So the situation is what it is. Domenica underlined it pretty well, no? So there's no time to say someone else will do the change that we want to see. At the same time, we need to be the change. We need to create our space, as we were saying. It's not just about creating space for ourselves, but it's about opening the space for many more people to come in. And if we don't do it now, and when? And if we don't do it ourselves, then who will do that?
I believe that you just said the most important stuff. I would just want to, let's say, sum up that if the four of us, the six of us, the all of us are here is because we actually do want to do something, because we want to get engaged. I could say, in general, I'm not that pessimistic. I would say I have faith, I have a great and complete faith in the youth, in young people, in wanting to get engaged. I have to say I do not have the same faith and the same optimism about the results. I know that sometimes in the future, some of us will be in power, some of us will have the opportunity to make some decision, to have an impact. And I hope and I would like to trust that in that moment we will remind ourselves of these moments, of the critics that we, in the past 2 hours, we have moved towards those who are in power now, and that we will try to remember and to get better, to improve things when we will have the chance, because we will have the chance sooner or later, even just for age factors. We will need to have young people in parliament or in the place where decisions are taken.
Okay, thank you. Now it's time to end the conference. So thank you again for being here today with us. Thank you, all of you guys, for took part to our conference, and I hope you will enjoy the next conferences of Hikma. Thank you.